Alright, this video is going to be a little different. I'm sure you can already tell, considering I'm playing a game that's considered very unsavory to a lot of people. I'm here to rant, if I'm being honest, in the meantime, between deciding what I want to do for my next, big video, so to speak. You know, I need to formulate ideas, but I'm also in the mood to make a video. So I'm going to try to keep it short, because I'm just really here to rant. And it's about the Spiral Abyss for this patch in particular. This cycle. Before I even talk about anything, I want to establish clearly that I have a skill issue. You can tell by my gameplay, you can tell by my team structure to an extent, you can tell by a lot. I'm not the greatest Genshin player, nor am I especially qualified to discuss this game's meta state. Most of my gripes with this Abyss resolve around the Tenebrous Pupilla, and one of the more major complaints that I have against this boss is that in addition to its specific requirements, you need a shield to fight it. If this boss being able to kill me screams a skill issue and that's your takeaway, that's very fair. I won't argue with that, and I wish you a good day. If you're still watching, hi, glad to have you around. While this Abyss being terrible has been covered by others already, I think I stand to offer the perspective of someone who isn't a well or content creator who has conned out characters to lift best and slot weapons with an account that has an answer for everything in the game. I'm someone who frequently takes breaks from this game. I missed out on at least a third of this game's existence. That's a third less resources than I have compared to someone who has been playing almost every single week since launch. My account isn't stacked, it's definitely mediocre. This game has obviously a very, very casual audience, and I'm someone who's definitely more aligned with that casual audience than that competitive audience to speak on these things. You can say okay, this mode is obviously, it's the hardest content in the game. It's not made for casuals, but there's no matter what going to be some overlap. There are casual players who convert. There are people who play pretty casually but still make attempts. And I'm not saying that things have to be so easy and openly available that people who don't give a fuck can learn the game and invest time into it can clear the hardest content with ease. More so am I saying that this Abyss in particular leans towards artificial difficulty, a financial mandate rather than a skill or time investment mandate. Now, I know Genshin is obviously a gacha game. It's by nature anti-consumer. But I want to speak on this in particular because this game felt, at least for a while, like an outlier. Now, obviously, it's stupidly expensive, ridiculously expensive to get certain characters. Whatever you want, you're not just going to be able to get. So it's always been harsh in terms of monetization. But you could always clear whatever with whoever, even if it was ridiculously hard for a lot of characters. This is an important discussion to have because I think this Abyss is symptomatic. I used to play Honkai Impact 3rd. That game has similar modes to the Abyss in Imagineum Theater. Not quite the same, but the general idea of their purpose was the same. I bring this up because I quit HI3 exactly because it got especially predatory. New characters would drop, and those characters would almost be a hard mandate for this endgame content. Much like Genshin, this endgame content was a place to somewhat push the player, to make building characters beyond the basics worth it. I don't play Star Rail, but as far as I know, that game very quickly pushes characters out of viability. And for a game that requires an arm and a leg for every character, that's ridiculous. Now, I bring these games up, obviously, because they're made by the same company that makes Genshin. And I feel like Genshin honestly was, or currently is, but I fear it's not going to be for longer, the exception to this incredibly predatory gameplay balance. Even when I started first playing HI3, one of my biggest complaints was that there were characters who were just flat out unusable. They were that bad. Genshin, of course, has its awful characters. Xenian, for example, is already barely usable. But that said, if someone is super dedicated, they typically can clear an Abyss with her. This Abyss, however, I don't think you can reasonably clear with Xenian, and I don't want that to be the new normal. But let's talk about why this Abyss is bad in particular. Let's actually get into that. Chamber 1 is easy, thankfully. Problems arise in Chamber 2, really. In Chamber 2, you have two bosses. The first half is the Gold Flame Tyrant, and the second half is the Tenebrous Pupilla. The Tyrant is the less of the two evils. It is pretty annoying, and there is clearly a best character to beat it, but you can still beat it fairly without that best character. The problem is the Tenebrous Pupilla. The Pupilla has a lot of problems. The entire boss is centered around this shield that, unless destroyed within 13 seconds, will instantly kill anyone nearby and subsequently give itself a 70% resistance to all attacks. This shield is designed around the Night Soul mechanic, which only characters from the newest region can utilize. With Night Soul, the shield goes down in 24 attacks. Without Night Soul, it takes 72. 72 damage ticks in 13 seconds is a very high asking price. There are methods to do it without Night Soul. C2 Ayaka can solo the shield, and some Hyper Bloom teams are able to clear it. Arlecchino can clear it with a few setups, and I was able to, during some of my earlier attempts, just barely clear it with Aggravate, Chlorine, and a C0 Ayaka. So in short, your options are new characters for Night Soul, a C2 of a character who's considerably bad, a specific team archetype, or a few specific limited 5 stars that you may or may not have. To make matters worse, this boss just kind of kills you. Like really, really easily. You badly want a shield for this boss, and considering how tanky it is, not any shield will work. Guess who is coincidentally available at the exact same time as this boss's runtime, who has a shield and massively amps the damage of your team?
Rex Lapis!
This is the kind of abyss that I couldn't clear with just 2 teams. I had to clear specific chambers and then go back with other teams. And that's what you're watching right now. The second half boss of the next chamber requires someone who can hit in the air. And I sadly don't have any meta air options, so gotta clear it with Ganyu Melt. Now, other than not liking Ganyu Melt's playstyle that much, I don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue with is clearing this boss with Ganyu Melt. First and foremost, I'm not 3-starring it. That's off the table, although I don't really care. The bigger problem is I'm dying. Awesome. Oh, giant chicken. Might die here. Yep. How do I know if he's supposed to shift into plant or if he's gonna shift into the fucking death chicken? You know what I mean? Like that. And at times, like, okay, I can react accordingly. I can play reactive and dodge the death chicken. But other times he just goes out swinging. You know? Or what if I'm mid-committal option and then he just decides to shift? There's no way I can possibly sense that. And I know that, you know, committal options are obviously committal. But this isn't the kind of game where a committal option should doom you to dying. It's like, awesome, I, you know, use burst. He teleports away. Chicken comes out. If I'm not super careful, I die. Chicken's out. Great. Flower swaps in, covers my burst. It's like, this is a game where you don't have any sort of tools to react to things other than just basic movement. This is a game where there are huge committal movement needs. There is no fucking QTE system like in HI3 or in Lisson Zero. This is a game where, you know, we can run and we can jump. So what do you mean that he has attacks that can completely, or at least near completely, wipe my health bar? That he can just drop whenever. But this isn't a 3rd chamber boss, this is a 2nd chamber boss, which means I'm forced to approach him with a team that I hope can clear the 2nd half 3rd chamber boss. But a team that fucking sucks against this guy. You know what you know which fucking character, which teams are great for both? Shaska teams. She can proc Night Soul, she attacks fast enough to be able to make advantage of Night Soul and break the shield. She flies, so she's not hit too often, and then for the next chamber, she can target flying. Like, the actual versions of these bosses aren't near as strong as this boss, even even not counting stats and all of that. But just how they move. Like, this boss moves much better than the bosses he's emulating. I mean, think about the most annoying bosses in, like, Abyss history. Waynut, for example. The boss is annoying as hell because he's annoying for any team. This boss is specifically annoying for teams that don't fit well within the meta, and teams who don't utilize the new mechanic. And I just feel like this is going to be the new standard going forward. I really, really hope it's not, but I think it will be. I expect Shesnaya to come out, and I'm going to be all excited because, oh my goodness, Cryo, I get to finally use Ayaka effectively. And then they're going to be like, oh, all of the SNES 9 Cryo characters have deep-seated freeze. And deep-seated freeze is needed to do any damage to the new Abyss bosses, and I'm gonna kill myself.
Skyward, scatter. Watch out. Scatter. Skyward. Shower me with praise. Let my name echo in song. Attack.
with nature.
Everybody stand! Eat this!
As one with wind and cloud.
For Rex Lapis! We're way nice and spicy!
The wind knows me. Time to go.
Born of ice and frost.
One with nature.
Next on the agenda. Teamwork is strength. You're toast. All hail.
Into the wind. Fallen leaves. Adorn my...
Access denied.